Let's compare the super popular ultra-budget console R36S with its bigger version, the R40XX Pro Max. That name is seriously over the top, clearly meant to make it sound like an insanely powerful must-buy console, because hey, it's got both Pro and Max in the name. But is it really as good as it sounds? And is it worth paying extra compared to the R36S? Let's find out together. The console arrived in this box. On the back you can see the main specs, and it turns out it runs on the same RK3326 processor as the R36S. However, this one has a larger screen, a bigger battery, and only one microSD card slot. By the way, this console has built-in Wi-Fi, which is a big plus. You won't need to buy a separate Wi-Fi adapter, which is super convenient. Inside the box, besides the console itself, you get a USB Type-A to USB Type-C charging cable and a screen protector, which is nice to see. I ordered mine in this semi-transparent purple color, but there are other color options available too. Out of the box, the console comes with a low-quality SD card, so the first thing you should do is reinstall the firmware. I'll be using a new branded SD card and installing dArkOS4Clone. First, you need to format the new SD card to exFAT. I'm using Disk Utility for this. It's a pretty standard process, so it should be easy for anyone. Next, go to the firmware website. There are several tables showing supported consoles and the required boot files. As you can see, the R40XX Pro Max uses boot files from the R46H console. That's great. It means that the firmware has already been tested and works reliably. Now let's download the firmware. I scroll up to the top on the page, click the link there, and download 3 files. It's a split archive. After downloading, you only need to open the first file, the rest will extract automatically. In the end, you'll get an IMG firmware file. Now we need to flash this image onto the SD card. I'm using Balena Etcher. Open the app, select the firmware file. Then choose your SD card as the target. Click Flash. Enter your admin password when prompted, and the process will begin. Once it's done, remove the SD card and insert it back into your computer. In the boot partition, find the file called DTB Selector. If you're on macOS, use the Mac version. If you're on Windows, use Win32. In the window that opens, select English by pressing 1 and hitting Enter. Press Enter again to continue. Based on the table we saw earlier, choose Option 9 – Game Console. Then select your console, which is Option 2. The system will start copying the correct boot files for the R30XX Pro Max. When it's finished, press Enter and close the window. Don't forget to safely eject the SD card. And before we continue, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. Also, don't forget to click the bell icon so you won't miss any new videos. And if you want to support the channel even more, you can hit the hype button. It helps push the video to new audiences and brings even more people into our community. Now insert the SD card into the console and turn it on. The firmware installation will begin. It's take a while, so be patient. Once it's done, the console will reboot automatically and you'll see the main menu. Since the console only has one microSD slot, you'll need to copy games onto the same SD card where dArkOS is installed. Remove the SD card and put it back into your computer. There is a second partition on the SD card called EasyROMs. This is where I'll be copying the games from the default SD card. Each system has its own folder, for example, Nintendo 64, Game Boy, or PlayStation. There are a lot of folders here, so you can copy everything or just the games you actually want. And if you already have your own game collection, you can copy those here too. You're not limited to just the games that came with the console. Alright, now the SD card is ready, and we can take a closer look at the console. The R40XX Pro Max and R36S are basically the same device with the same processor. The main external differences are that this one has only one microSD slot and a single USB Type-C port on the bottom. Also, the function, start and select buttons are arranged vertically, which is not very comfortable. You'll need to get used to it, since they're usually placed horizontally. I am also not a big fan of the D-pad. Diagonal inputs don't always register well. Sometimes you have to press harder. The R36S has a very similar D-pad, but diagonals feel more responsive there. On the back there are 4 triggers, and they're noticeably quieter than on the R36S. Overall, the console feels great in hand thanks to its size. If the R36S feels too small or uncomfortable for you, the R40 is definitely easier to hold. It also has a bigger battery and it's slightly heavier, but not by much. Otherwise, they're very similar, so let's talk performance. I used to think that a bigger screen would make things harder for the processor, since it has to render graphics on a larger display. At first, it kind of seemed that way, but it's really just minor variation. For example, GTA Vice City Stories doesn't run perfectly on either console. Performance depends on the scene. You'll see FPS drops on both, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on how much is happening on screen. So the conclusion is the same as with the R36S. This console isn't great for demanding PSP games. FPS can range from about 8 to 30. However, lighter PSP games run well and maintain stable performance. Even with the larger screen, the processor handles it just fine. The extra screen size doesn't significantly affect performance. I also tested Half-Life 2, and as you can see, the performance is no different from the R36S. That means the processor handles the game just fine in both cases, regardless of the screen size. So overall, I'd say this is a solid console and a great budget option if you like the R36S but want a bigger screen. It's more comfortable to hold, slightly heavier, but not a big deal. You get everything people love about the R36S, just in a larger body, plus built-in Wi-Fi, which is super useful for updates and downloading games via PortMaster. You can even play retro games online with friends. I explained how to do that in another video. In short, I can confidently recommend this console to anyone considering the R36S but wanting a bigger screen and better ergonomics. It's a great budget choice and a nice upgrade to a fan-favorite device.